College football's playoff will not be expanding, at least through 2025. The members of the College Football Playoff Committee could not come to an agreement on the proposed 12-team format that had been recommended in June. Instead, the playoffs will remain at 4 teams until the current deal expires in 2025. I want to bring in our College Football Playoff insider, Heather Dinich. Heather, you were all over this story. What more can you tell us about how the CFP leadership came to this decision?
They had a video conference on Wednesday and basically reaffirmed what everyone on that call already knew. They could not come to a unanimous agreement about what the format should look like. And this really shouldn't come as much of a surprise to anyone who has followed these meetings over the past couple of months, because the Big Ten has remained steadfast in its belief that the Power 5 conference champions should be awarded an automatic spot in an expanded playoff. They were in the minority in that. There was also a feeling that was made very public from ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips that now is not the right time to expand the college football playoff because of larger issues looming in college athletics like name, image, and likeness, the Supreme Court ruling with the Alston case, and just a variety of things like the transfer portal. Jim Phillips said the ACC says fix these problems before you fix the playoff. So there they are. They couldn't come to an agreement. They presented a recommendation to the presidents and chancellors to stay at 4 for the next 4 years, and it was approved on Thursday.
Heather, when this came out, I think there was a lot of momentum with those of us in college football that this was going to trend toward the 12-team playoff, and there was a lot of optimism. You cover this. Can you tell me when it kind of took a turn towards not going that way?
Well, a couple of months ago within the meeting room, remember the original plan was for a 12-team playoff with the 6 highest-ranked conference champions plus the next 6 highest-ranked teams. At some point over the past few months, there was a debate of what they're calling 5+1, 5 conference champions plus 1 other. And there was staunch opposition to that. Mike Aresco penned an open letter to college football this week saying that that is not merit-based. It's preferential treatment for the Power 5 conferences. And so that was part of it. And then when ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips came out publicly, said for the first time in mid-January, this is not the right time, the brakes could be heard across college football.
So give me what's next now that we know that there's not going to be expansion.
They have to turn the page now to 2026 because when you wake up on that morning of year 13, there's nothing. There's no college football postseason. And so the presidents and chancellors have tasked them with what is next. And I spoke with American Athletic Conference Commissioner Mike Aresco just a few minutes ago. They have no idea when their next meeting might be. They want to take a breath and kind of let this all settle for a minute. They had a meeting scheduled on March 2nd, which they canceled because they made the decision not to expand, obviously. But that's the next thing. They also have to figure out what the host cities are going to be for the final 2 years of this contract. They don't know yet. ESPN has previously reported that they're strongly considering Las Vegas and Miami. Bill Hancock told me today from China, where he's volunteering for the Olympics, that they still haven't gotten that yet. But those are the main things that need to be done next.
All right. It is final. No college football playoff expansion until this contract ends. Heather Dinich with the latest. Heather, thank you.
And now we welcome in Paul Feinbaum of the SEC Network. And Paul, perhaps it's no surprise, given some of the differing agendas and viewpoints that Heather just outlined, that they couldn't come to a consensus. Nonetheless, what's your reaction to today's news?
This is a sad and embarrassing day for college football. I don't know how in the world we got here from where we were a couple of months ago. When this was announced as a working group, Hannah, there was celebration among the fans. And that's the thing that is so irritating to listen to these commissioners and executives talk. They cannot settle this when it was already settled after a 2-year investigation. And the biggest losers are the people that love the sport and support it. And they're also leaving hundreds of millions of dollars on the table, which just shows that their feudal fiefdoms are more important than making money for their member institutions. I cannot tell you how disappointing this is for the fans of college football, and how utterly ridiculous it is that the leaders of this sport can't sit in a room and get this right. This is truly a dark moment in the history of college football.
With the fan bases at stake and all the money, as you mentioned, hundreds of millions of dollars, something like $450 million lost from the FBS schools and Notre Dame, is the fact that schools can't wrap their arms around things like NIL, because that was mentioned specifically by Heather. Some of these other issues in college football, does that feel like a reason to not have the playoff?
No, none whatsoever. They're completely different issues. I mean, you're talking about commissioners who are fighting for turf, fighting for when the Rose Bowl is going to be, when their leagues are going to be showcased, and with which network, and they're throwing up things that are red herrings. I mean, NIL and the Alston ruling are important issues. They're critical issues, but they have nothing to do with the CFP, Hannah. I'm shocked to hear commissioners throw that out, but then again, after covering the sport for nearly 40 years, nothing really should surprise me when it comes to the ineptitude of the leadership of this sport. There simply is none.
Yeah, that is surprising. You certainly can't draw a straight line between any of those issues to the lack of a decision today and a consensus. Paul Feinbaum, much more to be discussed. We appreciate your time today. Thanks.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.